Nintendo consoles. You might hate them, you might like them, but have you ever asked the question, "Oh, Gren, what are your opinions on Nintendo consoles?" You've probably never asked that question, but we're going to get right into it. Starting off with the Game Boy. Released in 1989, only had about 4 colors. It had amazing titles like this one, and this one, and this one. We're gonna put this one at A tier. Now the Game Boy Color, right here, it introduced color, which was in like 1990 something, and that was revolutionary for the NES being the only home console. So we're gonna put this one just a little bit in front of the Game Boy, right there. The Game Boy Advance. I have one. It's somewhere around here. But it was able to play not only Game Boy, not only Game Boy Color, but it was also able to play Game Boy Advance games, which is crazy. Here's some of the titles. I'm too lazy to name them. We're gonna put this one at S tier because it can play like 3 different consoles at once. I'm gonna do the same thing with the Game Boy Advance SP. The only cool thing about it is that it's flippy. And it had a backlit screen when the AGS 101 model came out, which was in 2005. Next is the NES. It was a pretty good console. It had some basic titles like Mario, Link, Kirby, I think, and a few more that you've probably played. So since it's like a standard console, I'm just gonna put this at B. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Okay, now the DS. And I have a controversial opinion on the DS. It wasn't very good. Of course, it was able to play Game Boy Advance games, but if you're gonna have a console that can play Game Boy Advance, why wouldn't you add just the Game Boy stuff too? I mean, it's not too hard, Nintendo. Come on. So we're gonna put this one in A tier, just slightly under S. The 3DS was so good. Like, honestly, you can't tell me otherwise. It was able to play DS games for the 3DS. It wasn't 3D, but it was DS. And so then they added Virtual Console into their shops, which made everybody able to play Game Boy games and Game Boy Advance games and NES games and SNES games and Sega Genesis games. A lot of games for the 3DS. There's just too many for me to count. So this bad boy is going in S tier. The GameCube was a pretty good console. It was also in 2001. And everyone's like, oh, it's got the most comfortable controller. I don't care. I'm caring about the games. It had Mario Sunshine, it had like Mario Party 6, I think, and it also had like the Game Boy player, which could play any Game Boy Advance game. Oh yeah, I forgot. Smash Bros. Melee. Anyway, yeah, this is a solid A tier. The Wii. Oh boy, the Wii. It could play GameCube, which means a lot. It had the controller slots, and it had the memory stick, and it had Mario Kart Wii, probably the best Mario Kart of all time, and it also had this. That was pretty cool. It had so many controllers, like customization controllers, that you could just go to the store and find any random one. So cool. So we're gonna put this at S. Oh boy, the Wii U. This guy flopped, but it had Nintendo Land, which was really good. Just put it somewhere, I don't care, just not like B, C, or F. Just put it up somewhere. The SNES. Of course it had the Game Boy player, but Super Mario World just doesn't really cut it out for me. I mean, of course it was a good console, but the NES was kind of better, in my opinion. So it's going in B. B. The N64. It had Super Mario 64, which automatically puts it in A tier. And there's no changing that, because none of the other games were as good as Super Mario 64. You can hate me all you want, but you're wrong. This leads us to the Switch. Now, for being released in 2017, it has some pretty good titles, including Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, ARMS, Animal Crossing New Horizons for all of my Animal Crossing fans out there. But it really, like, the key thing about it is that you can switch the controllers up by, like, attaching it to the handheld. You can also do it on the TV, but Joy-Cons suck. Stick drift. So I'm gonna de-rank this from, like, well, the stick drift is actually kind of funny, so we're gonna up this from C to, like, B, because of all of the useless titles that barely anybody plays anymore. Don't get me wrong, it's still it's still a good console, but, like, what are you doing with your life? Play, like, Roblox or something, I don't know. This is the end. Goodbye. Go play Roblox or Nintendo consoles, I don't really care. Oh.